Am I the asshole for embarrassing my mom because she started dating my BF dad? Sorry if anything is confusing, English is not my first language, please correct if something is very wrong. So me, F19, and my boyfriend, M20, have been dating for 4 years now. He was in 10th grade and I was in 9th when we got together. My parents and his always knew about our relationship. We actually lived near each other when we were younger and went to the same kindergarten. Now, his father was a single father for a long time and my parents got divorced 3 years ago. 3 weeks ago I got home, since the university is in the same city I still live with her, and I saw my mom and his dad kissing. It's an understatement that I was shocked. Like, WTF are you doing? I immediately called my boyfriend and he came over. We got into this huge fight with them. They started talking about marriage, the same day I requested to get a room in a dorm. And since then I haven't talked to her up until family dinner. While everyone was eating, my aunt asked why my mom and I aren't talking, so I told them everything. Well, maybe if she wasn't fucking my boyfriend's father, who is apparently going to be my brother's father soon, I would talk to her, and maybe I was harsh on her, but I was really hurt. My mom got all red and embarrassed and started shouting about how our love is just young and why she should ruin her love life because we kids think it's going to last. I started crying, shouting at my mom, and left. My grandmother called saying how cruel I am. Literally somehow everyone is siding with my mom except my cousin. Would I be the asshole if I cancelled my vacation ticket because my family wants me to share a room with my nieces? I, F23, have been planning a family vacation with my older brother, M30, and his wife, my 2 nieces, F4 and F2, and my parents. Everyone is paying for their own tickets. The vacation is booked for February. We hadn't discussed room arrangements before, but I knew the room we'd be staying in would have 3 bedrooms. So we discussed room arrangements yesterday, and my brother and parents just kind of assumed that I wouldn't mind sharing a room with my nieces, whilst my brother and his wife and my parents get their own rooms. I said I didn't want to share a room with them, and said that they should be sleeping in my brother and Sil's room since they're their parents. My parents called me dramatic and said that it's not a big deal, and said that my nieces won't give me any trouble. I told them I don't care. They said I'm being a bad aunt and told me to grow up. I told them if I don't get my own room I'll cancel my ticket, which would result in everyone else having to pay more or find someone else to go in my place because we got a group discount with the resort. My brother said I'm a whiny asshole and accused me of being a narcissist. Am I the asshole for telling my F26 friend, F26, that her degree is useless if she has to leave the country to find work? I have a high school friend, Diana, whom recently got her master's degree. She lived in another city and we barely ever saw each other, and she was always too busy for long phone calls, so we only talked briefly every now and then. During the time she spent on her degrees, I managed to get married and start my own family. Diana was visiting her family and we met up for lunch. I asked her about her degree, work prospects, etc. She did her master's in translation or interpreting or something like that, and she said she got the job but will have to move to Brussels. I told her that's crazy. If she can't find a job locally, then her degree was a waste of time if she has to move to another country. She said it's an amazing job opportunity that she couldn't get anywhere around here. Apparently the job is related to EU Parliament or whatever. I admit it, I lost her with all the abbreviations she was using. She again said that it's an amazing opportunity and she's excited. I asked her about the pay and she told me. I said that my husband earns that without a degree, so I was right about the Easter of time and money, and she said it's starting salary and it'll grow because the first year I saw pretty much training and being in a junior position. I again said that she could have gotten a similar job here and wouldn't have wasted 6 years. Andy instead could have already worked. Andy start a family. And here's where she was rude. She said that if she was to be as unhappy as I was, she didn't want a families. She threw in my face that apparently I'm always complaining about my husband, but I'm criticizing her. he's the best husband in the world. I told her she's ridiculous and mean and she called me an asshole, paid and left the restaurant. I to D my friends about this and they're split in who's the asshole here, so tell me, Ida for telling her the truth? AITA for telling my ex's wife that he lied to her? I, 33F, have a 13-years-old son named Adam that I've raised on my own. His dad, Chris, 34M, was someone I met in college. We had mutual friends and started dating when we were 18 and 19 years old. We broke up because he told me that his family would never accept a woman like me, I'm a POC, and he didn't want to put either of us through that. I found out I was pregnant a few weeks later, and when I told him about the baby, he basically told me to stay out of his life. I didn't contact Chris again after that. I even transferred colleges, but I kept in touch with the friends I had there. Some of them knew that he and I had broken up, but not everyone knew I was pregnant. When I had Adam, I contacted a few people to announce it, but otherwise I just kept to myself and focused on my son. I didn't think to worry about Chris beyond maybe helping Adam track him down someday when he was older. A few months ago, I got a message from one of the friends I kept up with from college. He said that he was still friends with Chris as well, and Chris had asked him if he had my number. He made sure it was okay with me before giving it to him. Chris texted me asking if he could get to know my son. I told him I'd talk to Adam about it first, and Adam eventually agreed to start talking to him. They've had pretty consistent messages back and forth and 1 or 2 phone calls over the past few months. Chris asked if we'd be comfortable having dinner with him and his wife, and because Adam said he really wanted to, I said okay and we set a time/place. Adam went to go to the restroom and Chris went to go get his phone out of the car because he'd left it there on accident, so when his wife Grace, 34F, and I were alone, she said that she wasn't judging my choice to do so, but she wanted to know why I waited so long to tell Chris he had a son. I kind of laughed and told her that I told Chris I was pregnant the day after I found out about it and he asked me to stay away, so I did. Him not knowing my son was his choice. She looked shocked and told me that Chris had informed her that he'd only found out about Adam a few months ago. I said I was sorry her husband lied to her, but he's known about Adam the whole time. Dinner was painfully awkward after that, so it ended a little early. Later in the night when I was getting ready for bed, I got a text from Chris asking why I had told his wife that he had lied to her about the situation. I said it wasn't my place to cover for him, but then he replied that I should have just told her to talk to him about it instead of telling her something that could ruin their marriage. He thinks I did it as some gotcha for how things ended for us. I will admit that I knew telling her the truth was probably gonna make some waves, but the only thing I feel remorseful about is the fact that this is probably going to screw things up for the relationship he's trying to have with my son. Am I the asshole for telling my dad that if something happens to him and his wife, I wouldn't take my half-sister? My 26F mom passed away a few years ago. During that time, we discovered that my dad had been cheating on her with a girl my age. His whole family disowned him and cut contact with him except for me. I guess that at that time, I wasn't ready to let go of both my parents at the same time, but over these last 5 years, I've been able to gradually let go to the point I only see them, twice or thrice a month. It's like I have no family left. Don't get me wrong, I also blame the girl for what happened, but the responsibility toward my mom and me was my dad's, not her. They eventually had my half-sister, for F, and for what I've heard and know, my dad and his wife are living paycheck by paycheck, on a budget and in a rental home since everyone in the family changed the will, both my grandparents and my mom. My dad didn't get the house because it was an eventual inheritance from my grandparents, but since she died first, I'm the solely benefactor from both sides since my paternal grandparents skipped my dad. Now, 2 days ago I went to visit him because it was his birthday and he said he and his wife wanted to talk to me. I was like, "Okay." They said that they wanted me to be the legal guardian of my half-sister in case something happened to mainly because I'll have the means for it. My dad's wife parents are able to care for her, but to an extent only, and that I'll have the needed money to take care of an innocent child. I said no, not for the money, but because I just don't wanna. I'm not close to my sister and currently I don't see nor want myself taking care of a child, much less, the reminiscent of my mom's last heartbreak. I said that I was willing to pass a monthly check, like a child support payment, but less than that since she's not my kid, but that was the only thing I was willing to do. My dad cried, saying that she was his baby and I was able to be a good sister like I was raised to, but I just laughed and said that he was no one to talk about goods and wrong and he and his wife should have thought of that before cheating. His wife called me a monster and kicked me out of the house. I left. Later that night I sent my dad a text informing him of my decision of cut ties with him, completely, and that from now on will be no contact unless it's an emergency. He's begging me to reconsider, but I don't know if I'm right or wrong. Am I the asshole for not paying the pet sitter because they lost our cat? We hired our neighbor's 16-year-old son to take care of our dog and cat while we were out of town. He was supposed to let the dog out twice a day and keep an eye on the food and water. The cat is an indoor cat and he was to feed her. 2 days in he lost our key, so I had to give him the garage code so he could get in. We got home after 4 days and the cat was nowhere to be found. I called him and asked, and the last time was he saw the cat, he told me that morning. Well, we knew the cat was gone and checked our security cameras. We saw her at 5:30 a.m. on the camera outside, so at a minimum she had been out since the day before. I can see the history of when the garage opens and closes in our app, and he hasn't been there that early. I had also checked her litter box and it was pretty clean, so she was probably gone for 2 nights. When I told him the cat was gone, he did come over and offer to go look for her and took off in his car. We saw him come back on our camera with a grocery store bag, so not sure if he actually went looking for her or not like he claimed. We left the door open overnight and she did come home and is fine. There was a good chance she couldn't have, as we live 1 street over from open space where a pack of coyotes frequent and she is only 8 pounds, so a lot of other animals could have gotten her too. Here's the main part: we decided not to pay him. It's a pay what you want agreement, and given that we now need to rekey the house and he lost our cat, we didn't feel that he took his responsibility seriously. And the bigger the mistake, the bigger the consequence. You may say, well, any job would have to still pay you. Yes, but they also can deduct or charge you the cost of damages, which in this case will be more than what we would have paid him, and we aren't asking for it, just not paying him. Is that wrong? Am I the asshole for uninviting my cousin for my wedding because of what he told me? I, 29F, have a cousin, 25M, who I have uninvited from my wedding. Why? Simple. He decided he wanted to propose to his girlfriend there. We were having a family dinner, everyone was just having fun, and then he pulled me aside with sparkles in his eyes. He told me he was gonna propose to his girlfriend. He showed me the ring and everything. I was happy for him. His girlfriend is an amazing woman and I was glad he wanted to take their relationship further. But then he asked me if he could do it at my wedding. At first I laughed cause I genuinely thought it was a joke, but no, he was dead serious. I told him that I'm sorry, but I don't want him to do that. He got mad and didn't talk to me for the rest of the evening. The next day he called me, again, asking if he could propose at my wedding, as it will be so beautiful, so share my most exciting day. I said no, and that I don't want to talk about it anymore. Well, a few days later he called me again, asking for the same thing. I got mad and told him not to call me about this again and that I won't pick up his calls until after the wedding, and that he can just text me. Well, he got mad and told me he was gonna do it anyways, and I can't do anything. So I told him he was not welcome there anymore and I'll make sure he won't be there. I told his girlfriend that unfortunately they won't be at the wedding because of a fight. I didn't tell her about the proposal, would be unfair towards her. My aunt decided to spam my phone 2 days before the wedding and scream to invite her son again, and if he's not coming, she's not coming either. I told her she didn't have to and hung up. And just as I thought, she didn't show up. After the wedding, people have asked me why my cousin wasn't there. I only said because of a fight, but my aunt spilled the truth. Most of my family members are on my side, but some are mad at me and are taking my cousin's side, saying it's not that big of a deal. I told my wife about it, even before the wedding, and she agreed with me, that the proposal wasn't a good idea and took my side about everything. Eve talked with my mom and she's also taking my side, but my cousin is still very mad. I honestly feel bad and selfish because maybe it really wasn't that big of a deal, and I could have shared my big day, but then again, there are better places to propose and most women wouldn't want to be proposed to at another person's wedding. So, am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for telling my sister that she can find somewhere else to stay if she can't take seeing my daughter? I, 27F, have a 5-year-old foster daughter named May. She has been with me for around 8 months now, and I love her to pieces. I'm considering adopting her, even. My sister, 31F, Kate, recently suffered a miscarriage, and it took a real toll on her marriage. She is getting divorced from her husband, and has been staying with me because she can't bear to live with him right now. Kate, however, has been a horrible guest to May. Every time May asks her for something, or talks to her, Kate will burst into tears, or yell at her. Kate is a great sister to me, and I understand that she's grieving, but that doesn't mean she can lash out at May for simply existing. I've told her off multiple times for yelling at May, but it all came to a head when I confronted her this morning. May had asked Kate if she could move so she could get to the snack cabinet. Kate snapped at her to, "Wait for a damn second, brat." I overheard from the living room and made Kate move out of the way and told her to apologize to May. Kate burst into tears, saying that she just couldn't take having May here as a reminder of what she's lost. I told her she is a grown adult, and should know better than to bully a child for her own problems. I told May to go to her room real quick, and Kate and I got into a huge argument, and I ended up telling her if she couldn't take seeing my foster daughter, she could find somewhere else to stay. She left to our parents' house and told them everything. I've been getting massages from her all day now. She tells me I am a horrible sister, and said that she was grieving and asked how I could put someone else's kid over hers. Which I think is a disgusting thing to send to anyone. Personally, I think she's being insensitive to me and my daughter's relationship. According to my mom, she's been crying for hours, and won't stop talking about how I'm such a monster for not thinking of her feelings. Am I the asshole? I just don't think she has a right to yell at my kid because she lost hers. Am I the asshole for what I said to my husband's aunt after she constantly claimed I was cheating? I, 27F, and my husband, 28M, are accepting our first child, a baby girl, in January. We already have her name picked out, a name we both adore, the same middle name as my sister, and my last name. Some backstory: me and my sister are my father's only children. Unfortunately, he passed away when I was 13. Because of this, I have become extremely attached to my last name. I feel like it is my duty to carry on his legacy by keeping my last name and giving it to my children. Some backstory on my husband's side: my husband is the fourth born of 5 boys. Most of his brothers are married with at least one kid with their last name. At first we planned to hyphenate our daughter's last name with my last name first. But my husband suggested that if it's so important for me that she have my last name, then let's just give her mine. He says that no matter what last name she has, she will always be his daughter and he will love her no matter what. Now the issue is with my husband's aunt. She claims that if I'm trying so hard to persuade him into giving our child my last name, then it must not be his. The rest of my husband's family is 100% on board with this decision. I was obviously hurt by what she is saying. My husband has sat her down and talked with her about this, but she doesn't believe a word he says. She claims that I am lying and that the only reason I kept my name when we got married was so the men I had been cheating with didn't know I was married. My husband told me to just ignore her and eventually she'll simmer down, but I think it's just made her double down. She now claims that since I am ignoring her that she's right and that I'm afraid of her and what she'll do. Here's where I might have went too far. We were at my mother-in-law's house, she's an absolute saint BTW, just hanging out, when his aunt showed up to pick something up. We made eye contact but said nothing. She stayed for a while and talked about things unrelated to the baby. Well, the baby kicked my right in the rib and I winced and grabbed my stomach. That's when she mumbled something under her breath about my bastard of a child. I lost it. I went off about how her daughter cut her off because of how she treated her and how her and her husband are on the brink of divorce because he was cheating on her. To be completely honest, I think that's why she was targeting me in the first place. She got upset and stormed out. I felt terrible afterwards. Both my husband and my mother-in-law said that they were surprised I hadn't done it sooner. But I can't help but feel that I stooped down to her level and gave her more to say about me. I honestly feel for her. Anyone in her situation would obviously not be in a very good mental place and I can't help but feel I made it worse. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.